What's up, people? I hope you had an amazing start of the week. My name is Pepe Cuenca, I'm a Spanish Grandmaster, and I'm here to show you the game of the day of round number 3 of the Grand Prix series in Sharjah in the Emirates. Another game where Rapport is playing. I have to tell you that I'm not really in love with him, so my feelings are not so hard for him yet. But the thing is, he's playing extremely creative, and he's having a lot of crazy fights. So I have to show you this interesting game. And another thing is that it was the only decisive game in the round, so the rest ended in draws. So yeah, let's just see what happened in this interesting game where Nakamura had the white pieces. So he started playing d4 and Rapport replied with d5. Until so far everything is normal, right? But after c4, again another surprise by Rapport. So he plays knight c6, the Chigorin defense. So for those who still are not registered in Chess24 or who didn't take a look on our series, so precisely I have a series on this opening recommending something for white. So in this game Nakamura played knight f3, but I'm gonna show you a little bit of our recipe against this Chigorin defense. And if you wanna go in details, you can check my series. It's in Spanish, but you can learn something. So our recipe goes c takes d5, queen takes d5 and e3. So normally white loves to play knight c3 just to kick this queen. So this is why normally black moves the e5, the e pawn to e5. So after knight c3 you can reply by bishop b4, and here the most common move is bishop g2, but our recipe goes a3. After bishop takes c3, b takes c3. This is extremely concrete. So let's say now e takes d4 is actually an inaccuracy already, because after c takes d4 you can go knight e2 in the next move and knight f4, and f4 is an extremely great square for this knight, since it cannot be kicked out from there, only with g5, and this is not really an ideal move for black, right? So after b takes c3, normally black plays knight f6. After this we follow with c4, queen d6 and d5, knight e7, and now the move is a4. So as you can see, we have only moved our pawns, but the thing is black is gonna have a lot of troubles in this diagonal. So this is considered to be better for white. This is our recipe. Just if you are interested, or if you want to check in details, or if you want to play in some of your blitz games, etc., or classical games, I would be happy to know. So instead Nakamura played knight f3. This is one of the main lines, and after bishop g4 by Rapport, he took on d5. Of course, now it's not good to take on d5, since knight f3, there's no bishop b4. You guys have to remove your queen, and what did you do? Nothing. Just white has a lot of center. This is some bad version of some strange, weird Scandinavian, right? So that's why after c takes d5, black takes on f3, given the fact that he can take back on c6 if white decides to take on c6. So after bishop f3, white normally takes with the g pawn, don't take with the e pawn. This is a positional crime. So after queen takes d5, now look at this isolated pawn. It's so sad. There's no pawn who can defend this, right? Basically just black put a lot of pressure on this d4 pawn. The next move with long castle, e5, etc., etc. So that's why you normally go g takes f3, and after queen takes d5 you have to go e3. So this is what Nakamura played, defending the d4 pawn. You now want to go knight c3, kicking this queen back, so e5 has to be played. Knight c3, bishop b4, you cannot take the queen, don't be so happy yet. And after bishop d2, now taking the queen is actually a threat, so that's why black has to take on c3. And again, don't commit positional crimes. Now taking on c3 with the bishop is just extremely sad, extremely ugly. Don't do this. I will go and catch you and send you to prison, because after e takes d4, look at this bishop, you know, cannot play, hasn't got diagonals, and there is pressure for free on this d4 pawn later after knight e7 or knight f6, short castle, a rook to d8, a rook to e8. This is just perfect position for black, and that's why you normally take with the pawn on c3. This reinforces the center, And this position is extremely risky for black, in the style of Richard Rapport, because you have the bishop pair, you have a good mobility in the center, you have an open position for the bishops, you have nice diagonals for the bishop on f1, and there is some weakness on b7. There are open files on g and b, so it's not clear where black is gonna place his king. So black can only get a good position if he manages to find some nice squares for the knights. And at this point, queen d6 was normally played, but Rapport played almost a novelty, queen to d7 at this point. So we have to say that black actually has to be prophylactic at this point, because you play something like knight f6, then c4 is coming, the queen d6 and d5. So this is a better version of what I showed before of the line that we recommend, because the bishop is already on d2, and after rook b1 putting some pressure on b7, not only put pressure on b7, but also the next move you can go bishop b4, for example. So this is much better for white, I would say. So Rapport went queen to d7, surprising again Nakamura probably, and rook b1 by Nakamura. And in the next move, Richard went long castling, like showing he's got the balls of this size, since it's actually so hard. I mean, it's really dangerous, right? Since look at this bishop on g2, it's gonna have an extremely awesome diagonal after son f4, and then you have the b file to put some pressure on b7. This is extremely dangerous. So bishop g2 by Nakamura, and knight g to e7. And queen b3, just threatening checkmate in one move, right? So you have to defend it and go b6. And at this point, Nakamura took the pawn on f7. So this is, of course, a normal move. You win a pawn, but this is gonna give Rapport some tempi that he'll be happy to use to create some sort of attack, given the fact that this king is still in the center. And this knight has nice squares to jump, for example, let's say g6 and h4 in case black wants to castle short side, right? So after queen f7, rook f8, don't go queen takes g7, because rook g8, boom, and then you lose your bishop and you just take a shower and go home. So after rook f8, now Nakamura plays a really precise move, in my opinion. He goes and plays his queen on c4. I think this is a really precise move. Let's try to explain why. So if you go, for example, to another square like h5, now black could take on d4, and then some move like Richard Rapport loves to play, like for example knight takes d4, and after e takes d4, queen takes d4. Look at this king here, he's so naked, he's so sad there in the center. So bishop e3 is just losing, for example, because of queen c3, boom, and then after king f1 there is queen d3, and then this rook is hanging, so tasty, right? So white has to play rook d1 after queen d3, bishop f1 is the only move, queen c2. This is so risky, even though the Jin says is an advantage for white. This is extremely risky to play, and this is the types of position where Rapport swims like a professional, right? So that's why queen c4 is, in my opinion, really good, because not only defend this d4 pawn, let's say after this line I show, after knight takes d4, you can just take with the queen, but also you threat to go queen a6 in different types of positions. So Rapport goes king b8, putting the king in a safer place, and short castle here by Nakamura, a really natural move, putting his king safe as well. And at this point, actually, Rapport had a really interesting maneuver. Knight g6 was extremely complicated, because now you are threatening to go knight h4, and basically maybe he was afraid of some f4. Now the c6 knight is attacked, but the thing is you can go knight a5, and the queen has to go to b5. Let's say after e takes f4, you cannot go queen takes a5, since f3 is coming and there is a lot of attack coming. This king is very in a lot of danger, since knight h4 is coming, queen g4, rook f6, another rook to the attack, and it's just white is just not gonna make it, right? So you have to take on d7 here, and after rook takes d7, this endgame is far from clear, since this knight they've got nice squares. For example, the c4 square, the h4 square. You have a pawn putting some pressure on the king side here. You maybe in some lines want to go f3, So this endgame was extremely complicated and interesting. But instead, Rapport played g5. This is a natural move as well. So his idea is after f4 that this is a move that normally white would love to play to give this bishop a nice diagonal. Then black could check with the g pawn, opening the g file to create some sort of attack against the white king. But this gives white some time, sorry, and he plays rook b5. This move has a double purpose. First, it puts some pressure on this e5 pawn and stops knight g6 now, since now f4 is really good. There's no knight a5 anymore because of boom, rook takes a5, and after b takes, queen b3 followed by queen b7 checkmate. So after rook b5, Rapport played rook f6, defending the c6 knight, and also maybe preparing for some rook h6 in the future. But after this move, Nakamura played the accurate e4 that also that expands his pawn in the center, but also targets the e5, the g5 pawn, right? So let's say if black takes on d4, you can take on g5, and after rook g6, this looks dangerous. So whoa, I just closed the program, so I have to open again. So Richard Rapport defends the g5 pawn by playing h6. This is really natural, right? And now Nakamura just decides to take this pawn on e5, right? Given that it's free, it's good to take it. It's tasty, and attacks the f6 rook. Now Denjin suggested rook f8, but after bishop e3, knight g6, this is still extremely complicated. White is 2 pawns up, but this bishop is not contributing now to the position, and probably this pawn on e5 is gonna fall. The knight's got good squares, f4 and h4, and probably this is far from clear. But instead, he played knight a5, attacking this queen, right? And we have to say that after rook a5, now you can play rook c6, right? And then this rook is gonna fall, for example. So instead, Nakamura played queen e2. Black cannot capture this bishop on d2 since this rook on f6 is attacked. So that's why now you have to move the rook, and Rapport played rook c6. The bishop on d2 is attacked, so you have to go bishop e3 now, and knight g6. This knight targeting the e5 pawn, also aiming to jump to f4 or to h4 in some positions, right? And rook d5, it's good to exchange some pieces when you are material up. Queen e7 and rook fd1, and now you cannot take this rook on d5. If you take this rook, it's just the same as committing suicide, because you take with the e pawn, then d6 is coming, maybe f4 later. Look at this diagonal, look at this d6 pawn. This is gonna be so extremely hard for black. So that's why he moved the rook to f8, and now queen b5, that has a double purpose. Actually stops this knight coming to c4, for example, or to b7, since this rook on c6 is attacked, sorry, and also defends the e5 pawn that was attacked by 2 pieces. Queen e6 by Richard Rapport, and rook d8, exchanging a pair of rooks. Cannot be bad, right? King b7 and queen to d5, and looks that white is gonna exchange the queen as well, and it's gonna end up in some endgame with 1 or 2 pawns up. So it's good news for Nakamura, and at this point it looked like Nakamura was going to win more or less easily this game, but wait for it, because it's never easy in chess. So he played knight c4, and at this moment rook g8 was extremely strong. With the idea of going queen d8, and it looks like the advantage is too much, but instead Nakamura took on e6, and after rook e6 he played bishop h3. This pawn is impossible to defend, there are 3 pieces attacking, so he decides to activate this bishop via this diagonal. Rook e5, bishop c8 check, queen c6 only move. You don't want to go to b8 because there is rook, bishop a6 checkmate, sorry. And after king c6, now Nakamura starts with the usual dance when you are on top. Like this means just doing 2 repetitions and then changing in the third one. So just to move forward and then to hope that the time control passes, right? So check, check, and bishop d4 was played in this moment. Rook a5, and then, you know, it's not easy. You have the pieces far from the king, and look at this. Now knight f4 is coming. If black manages to take on a2, this king can have a lot of troubles. So white actually has to be really precise at this point of the game. So he played again, he made the usual dance, tango, salsa, boom, 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 and bishop e6, targeting the c5, the c4 knight, sorry, and also defending with x-rays the a2 pawn. So, sorry, bishop b6 and king b5 was played. And now, at this point, Nakamura makes an inaccuracy, makes a mistake by playing bishop d7. There was a really interesting move here, the move a4 check, forcing this rook to take on a4, since if king takes on a4, then the c4 knight is hanging. So you have to take with the rook on a4. And now after rook d5 check, black actually is forced to take on... What's going on? Wait, mamá, te llamo en 10 minutos, ¿vale? Ok, un beso. Sorry guys, it was my mom, and until now I love my mom more than I love chess, so I just told her that I call her in 10 minutes. So c5, bishop d7, and now you win the exchange after king a5 takes and bishop g7, and you are gonna collect these 2 guys, and these pawns are gonna make it to the end. So this was a clear advantage for white, but instead Nakamura played bishop d7, and now after c6 you can see that it's actually extremely hard to stop this rook from coming to a2. Let's say you play rook c8, you can also play knight ge5, defending the c6 pawn, attacking the bishop on d7, and attacking the pawn on f3. So this is actually better for black. So after c6, bishop e8 was played, targeting the g6 knight and knight to f4. And black is actually threatening checkmate in 2 moves. Rook takes a2 and rook a1. So white has to be extremely precise at this point. You play rook c2, just give me your pawns, baby. Rook a2, bishop a6, just move my king, and then rook a1. And what are you gonna do about this? You are just losing. So h4 was played in order to give this king some pressure via h2. Now, if you take on h4, there is bishop g7, good move, aiming to take on h6, kicking this knight back from f4, and then this king has the square on h2. This is better for white. But instead, Rapport played knight d2, aiming to take this pawn on f3 that is actually impossible to defend. King h2, and then at this point, Rapport had a draw. But I don't know if he saw the draw or not, or maybe he wanted more at this point, because this is so complicated now. The draw was like this. So he could play knight f1, and after king h1 or king g1, just rook takes a2. So h takes, and rook d6, let's say, and knight d2, bishop c6, king a6, and now you're gonna give check on a1, and after king h2, knight to f1, the only square is g1 or h1. This knight is gonna come to d2, and triple repetition. So let's give the line, and knight f1, and a draw. But instead he took on h4. This is maybe an inaccuracy, because now after bishop e3, actually you have to remove this knight from f4. Yeah, this was precisely the piece that had this king more or less trapped on h2. So Rapport at this point took on h3. After king h1, he went knight h3 and bishop h5. And look at how these 2 bishops are contributing to expose these 2 beautiful corcels from white's position. Blackcourt, Rapport Rapport, that is playing with the black pieces, at this point he went a little bit crazy and he played knight f2. But the thing is, the position is already quite difficult for black, because if you play knight h g5, after king h2, let's say h3, king to g3, and knight to e5, you can just play bishop e2, forcing this king to go to the a file. This is very important because you stop this rook from coming to a2. And now just a very calm move like f3. Your plan is gonna be rook d6, collect this pawn, then this is the pawn that actually defends this important knight on g5, and then you'll be able to collect the h3 pawn. Let's say after king a3, rook d6, takes, and white is just on top. So he took on f2, but after bishop takes f2, rook takes a2, bishop f3, rook takes, and rook d3. This is a very important pawn, the e pawn, that is gonna win the game, given the fact that this king is cacked with the d file, and actually this pawn is gonna be a queen very soon. So this just ended in a win for Nakamura a few moves later. So let's continue a little bit, but this is just this position is just completely winning for white. So another crazy game by Rapport, and it's nice to see this kind of openings in the top tournaments. At least I enjoy them a lot. So Rapport being creative from the very beginning. Nakamura actually played a really nice game. He made some mistakes at some point, but he manages to win this game. And I'll show you the standings as some users suggested in the previous video, right? So these are the standings now. As you can see, Bachilagraph is leading with 2.5, Nakamura 2, and Mameriarov, Adams, Aronian, and a lot of players in the middle of the table, and Salem is just in the bottom with a half out of 3, and Rapport only with 1 out of 3, but giving some spectacle. So guys, this was all. I hope you enjoyed the analysis. Hope to see you soon. Bye bye and take care. Bye bye. Na, 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 na.